Democratic State Senator Roland Gutierrez of San Antonio. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate you.
I just wanted to get your reaction to President-elect Donald Trump's confirmation the other day that the military is going to be involved in carrying out his mass deportation policy. And now we've learned that the Texas Land Commissioner, Dawn Buckingham, has offered about 1,400 acres of newly acquired property from her agency to the Trump administration to use for construction or staging areas for him carrying out that policy. So what's your reaction to all this?
Yeah, listen, I mean, clearly a lot of people in the United States voted for this guy, and now he's in. And so we've got to hold on tight for the ramifications of his so-called promises made, promises kept, because if he does do everything that he said he was going to do, and clearly he has already announced some actions in that direction, our economy is going to hurt drastically. I'm not entirely sure that he's going to be able to use active duty military. And so that's what they're going to try to do for sure. I think that there are some protections in place in our current laws to be able to keep that from happening. Nevertheless, he is obviously going to go to some extreme measures to do this. It's we'll see what happens here in the months to follow. But I think that people in Dallas and all over this state that are used to their babysitters and their gardeners and the guy working behind the counter, behind the kitchen and Taco Bell and everywhere else, they should all think twice about it because things are going to cost a lot more going forward.
And I was just going to ask you about that because you brought up the economy and all that. Is that your biggest concern as far as fallout?
Well, look, I mean, this guy painted this doom and gloom picture that migrants are coming over to kill us all and rape our children and so on and so forth. We all know that our economy is based in large part on an immigrant economy in the areas of meat packing. If you look at the sea shift across this country and our meat packing plants, and I'm not just talking about one place, they're all over the United States. The C shift is the shift in the night hours. The vast majority of those employees are migrants. If you look in your kitchen at the Taco Bell or wherever it is that you go get your fast food, vast majority of those people are undocumented. If you look at just the farmers and ranchers that are trying to maintain their farming and ranching industry, we have a broken H-2A program. It makes it very difficult for them to get legal labor, and so they resort to getting undocumented labor. We have a broken immigration system for sure, a system that absolutely needs to be fixed. But the notion that you're going to go out and deport, 12, 13 million people is just ludicrous. Number one, how are you going to pay for it? If he is successful to even a fraction thereof, it will absolutely impact our economy in a negative way.
And you're talking about Texas specifically or nationally?
I think just at a national level, but if you want to bring it down to a micro level here in Texas, if you look at our home housing starts, if you look at construction, when you see a new subdivision being put up in the middle of the summer heat at 110 degrees, who's on those rooftops? Who's framing those houses? It's undocumented labor. So let's be very clear. These are jobs that Americans simply don't want to do. And they're getting paid well enough, but Americans don't want to do this work. And so we have to be very realistic with ourselves going forward. I mean, first off, it was a lie. Migrants are not committing the crimes in the United States. The statistics will show that most crime is committed by US citizens. And so secondly, just this whole notion of him deporting everybody, if 1/10 of it is true, we're in deep trouble in our economic base.
And I spoke with a Republican state lawmaker who said if you're talking about the costs on society, they said that the cost of the Biden administration policy has weighed on heavily on cities, not only in Texas, but across the country. So what do you say to that?
Oh, come on. I mean, every economist will tell you we need about 20 million new workers in our US economy. Most economists worth their salt will tell you we need 20 million new workers now. Um, that's just more of the same crap that Donald Trump peddles. Certainly, we have an issue of recent migration that's happened of Venezuelans, and how we've handled it has not been so well done. We can certainly figure out how to do things better and get people primarily work permits as quickly as possible. We were processing migrants in under the preliminary asylum claim, which is called credible fear, and yet the federal government takes 6 months to give those people a work permit. If everybody that has a work permit has a job, I mean, it's that simple. We need to be able to process those things faster and be able to solve some of those issues. But migration is a worldwide problem, first off. And secondarily, what we see now in this scapegoat that Donald Trump has put up for us, which is that migrants are the problems that ail us in the United States. Let's see what happens when he gets rid of 10%, 25%. Then you'll see the problems in the United States, and you'll see what we have now, and tenfold, because we will have an economic disaster of incredible proportions.
Records show that there are 1.3, 1.4 million people in the US who already have deportation orders on them. Do you think that is a place that, if this policy is going to go through, that the administration should start on?
Well, there's
And,
good, there's good places to start. Certainly, if you've got a criminal history, a violent criminal history, certainly you shouldn't be here in the United States. Listen, I would change my whole outlook on life if this man got in there and said, look, we're going to take the 12, 15 million that have been here for 20 years, and we're going to figure out some kind of pathway to something for them. That would make sense. We're going to take people that have arrived in the last few years, and that's just not going to be possible. I mean, so those are ideas that can happen, but that's not what he's saying. What he is saying is, I'm going to deport everyone. And he's not even saying I'm going to deport the criminals. He's saying I'm going to deport every undocumented person in the United States. That I have to take him at his word. And if that's what happens in this country, then we are going to be in an economic disaster waiting to happen.
And I wanted to ask you because, as you know, session is about to start in January. And as far as any bills that you have filed, is there anything related to immigration that you have filed?
Oh, not at this time, Jack. We're going to be uh, pushing back, playing a lot of defense. I mean, they control the House, they control the Senate, and they control the executive offices in this state. And so I think that from my aspect, what I've done in my last 20 years in that building is I've always played defense. Man, if you gave us the ability to be on the offense in Texas, we'd have great schools. We'd have great infrastructure in this state. You wouldn't have people dying in the summer. You wouldn't have children dying in our schools. But sadly, they've been in charge. And they sure do like to complain about failed schools. They've been running them for 30 years. And so we've got a lot of work to do. We've got to push back against their crazy voucher scheme. We've got to push back against them, gaslighting everybody else for the problems of Texas. The problems in Texas should be owned solely by this Republican Party that's run it for the last 30 years.
And so I mean, I know you filed a whole bunch of bills with a number of your other Democratic colleagues in the Senate. Talk to me about your priorities. I know you just said that defense is going to be your main go-to this time around, which I guess it always is, given the Republican majority in the Senate. But
We're going
talk
to
to me a
be
little bit about your priorities this session.
Well, as you know, we're going to always talk about guns in schools. We're going to talk about the gun violence that's plaguing our state. We're going to talk about Uvalde. We're going to talk about doing what 75% of all Texans want, which is raising the age limit on AR-15 access to the age of 21. Even 75% of Republicans want that. But, this leadership team doesn't want to hear that. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about auto insurance. We're going to talk about the things that are hurting people at home, the kitchen table politics. Right now, auto insurance in Texas is through the roof, and people, working class families, are hurting tremendously. I mean, I don't know how much your insurance is, but around $250 if you're paying for your car. And say you have a car payment of $300 a month, and you're paying for it, then you've got to get full coverage. Your insurance policy is going to be at least $200 a month. And that just happened overnight. It happened in the span of about 4 years, we allowed this to happen. And so we've got to figure out how we're going to have either through some kind of regulation or price controls on big insurance, how we adjust this problem that is plaguing people at home. I mean, absolutely. We're going to look at groceries and look at different things that are affecting people in the right way and try to address them. We have to be talking about kitchen table politics because that's what affects mom and dad at home.
And just on the auto insurance, have you reached out to Republicans to figure out a way to get them on board to solving this issue?
No, we will. We will be talking about it. I was glad to see that the Speaker of the House put it on his radar as well. Um, this is a national thing, and it's certainly a statewide thing in Texas, and it needs to be addressed. Um, for me, it hurts so many of my constituents. And so I'll be talking to the Speaker of the House and other people that are interested. And if anybody in the Senate is interested, we'll be talking to them as well. But we've got to be able to do something in this space. But it's not, it's beyond that. The fact is, it has gotten very expensive to live in Texas, and wages haven't kept up with cost of goods sold. You know, if you go to the grocery store, and I still do, I go every week. Working class families are buying $400 and $500 bills into their grocery bag. That's tremendous. And when they're living on the average family of four makes $48,000 a year in this state. How do you make it all happen when a full third of it is going to groceries? And so we've got to be able to figure out a way for people to live in a right way. We've got to talk about raising the minimum wage in Texas. That has gone nowhere with the Republicans, but I'm going to be filing that bill again. Other Democrats will be filing that bill. Listen, other states, complain all you want how things are more expensive in other states, but other states have raised their minimum wage. California has a minimum wage of $15 an hour. Ours is at the federal average of $7.25. We've got to do better. People are struggling at home. And so we're going to talk about kitchen table politics for sure.
And my last question to you, Senator, and I appreciate your time. Just, in a year, we're going to be talking about 2026 in less time than that. And so I know that you ran statewide this past year. Are you looking at perhaps running statewide again?
Well, Jack, I'll tell you that that's not on my radar right now. I'm most concerned about this session and moving forward and protecting parents' rights, protecting, a person's ability to work and live well at home and enjoy the fruits of their labor in a right way. I ran in that last race because I was very angry. I was angry about everything that I saw in Uvalde, Texas. I saw all those children dead, and it affected me in a tremendous way. And I saw that Ted Cruz paid short thrift to those families and didn't respect them in any way. And so I can tell you that I'm going to continue to advocate for my community, and my community is the whole state of Texas. I love my state, and we're going to keep fighting for them as best we can.
Democratic State Senator Roland Gutierrez of San Antonio. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack. Take care.